Hey guys, come over the series premiere of the new Fox series Houdini and Doyle. This is season 1, episode 1 of the Magic Street of the Maggie's Redress, and I really didn't know what this show was going to be like. I saw that brief footage I showed you in the summer TV show preview, and that's literally all I saw of the show. I didn't know anything else about it. I did see other things, though, because I wanted to go into it knowing enough about it, and the show really did intrigue me. Just the title alone, Houdini and Doyle, I mean, the lives of Harry, Harry Houdini, and then Arthur Conan Doyle. I think it's a very interesting story. I was looking forward to seeing how the show is going to be, and I checked out the first episode. Now, I'm not going to review every episode weekly. I'm going to review the season when it's done, mainly because it's kind of like a case of the week show, but there are obviously recurring storylines, and I will say that I do really enjoy a lot of things about the show, but the other part of the show is that half of it is really interesting, and half of it I think is really cool, but half of it's already been done before, and we will get into that. There are a lot of things I think the show definitely needs to work on, but basically let's get to the plot of the show, because we focus on Harry Houdini and Arthur Conan Doyle. Arthur Conan Doyle pretty much believes in the supernatural. He wants to prove that the supernatural is real. There are all these, like, murders and things like that going on in the town. He wants to prove that there are ghosts and creatures like that around in the town, and Harry Houdini is a skeptic. He doesn't believe anything unless he can see it himself. He, that's just how he sees it. Unless he sees it, he doesn't believe it, and, he really doesn't think that it's true, and basically, it's kind of they're clashing, and basically they decide to team up together. They become involved in the investigation of several mysterious deaths, and basically they kind of argue over what the causes are, and basically that's the plot of Houdini and Doyle, which in itself is a very interesting plot, but it has kind of been done before, which we'll get into in the screenplay. I mean, not the screen, when we get to the writing of the show. This isn't a movie, so it's not a screenplay, it's a teleplay. But let's get to the cast here, because the cast was one of the things that I don't recognize anyone really in this cast, but I think for the most part, everyone did do a good job. I think Michael Weston did a good job of playing Harry Houdini. Harry Houdini is a bit quirky, as we see in this. We see that he's a very gifted magician. He played that very well. Harry Houdini in general just really fascinates me. I think he really is good in here. I like that he actually is the one that is actually against magic. I think that's interesting. And of course, that is the story of Houdini and Doyle, which I think is already very interesting. I think he did a good job. I definitely do like his character. And then Stephen Mangan as Arthur Conan Doyle. I like what we saw here. I like that we already are getting some Sherlock references, because Arthur Conan Doyle does go on to write the Sherlock Holmes series, which I think is very interesting, the way that we got so many references to that just in this first episode. And I think the chemistry between these two, really, they work very well together. I think you definitely do see that these two, they clash a lot, but they work very well together. They definitely make me one of the best things about the show. They are actually very funny at times, and overall, I really did enjoy these two working here. I think they did a good job. Rebecca Lydiard is the one character that I'm not certain about. She plays this character, Adelaide, who also works with Houdini and Doyle. Part of her I really like, and then part of her just feels like they put her in just to have a woman character and to create conflict here, because she really is like the third one there. She knows a lot of information. She's very good at what she does, but of course this was the 1800s, and actually 1900s, and back then, of course, it wasn't common for women to be involved in any sort of job whatsoever, and there's kind of this whole subplot going on with her that I think is kind of silly, surrounding Horace Mering, which we'll get into. I think she was really good, though. I think she worked well with the two of them. I think all three of them, they worked very well together. You can tell they're also having a lot of fun. They're not trying to take it too seriously, and I definitely really did enjoy that, and definitely just seemed like it's gonna be a fun series because of that. And then Emily Carey and Noah Jupe, they were fine as the Mary Conan Doyle and Kingsley Conan Doyle. And then Tim McInerney, he's the one character that I'm not set on yet, and that is Horace Mering. He is basically the boss of Houdini and Doyle. He's the one that runs the detective agency. Is it a detective agency? No, he's a chief inspector, and basically, he's the chief inspector, and he seems to believe, he's the one that kind of isn't sure if Doyle is correct, but he kind of wants to listen to Doyle and see what's going on there, so I think that's very interesting. I like what they did with that, but there is kind of a subplot going on with Adelaide, where Mering thinks that Adelaide is having an affair, and it's kind of dumb. I'm really not a fan of it. I hope that ends, because I think it's really stupid. He thinks that, he thinks that Houdini and Adelaide are sleeping together, and he wants Adelaide to leave. I mean, that whole plot to me, I get that it's relevant for the time period, but it just feels like it's there to create drama. I'm not really a fan of it. I'm not really loving that, but other than that, that, there were a lot of things I definitely really did enjoy about the show. The directing, I think, is pretty good. I think they did a good job with the tone. I like that they knew when to take it seriously and when they didn't. I definitely really did enjoy that. There's also a British show, and you definitely do get that British sort of feel from this. They're definitely trying to do like a Sherlock type show, but of course this is in the 1900s, so you definitely do get that feel from it, and I think definitely the directing was very good. The writing as well, I thought was pretty good. I thought the writing was really good here. There were actually some really funny moments that I definitely really did enjoy. Just some of the banter between these two is actually really fun to watch at times, and I definitely really did love that. My problem with the writing is that it's just not that fresh. I know this is based in a story, and that obviously the story between Harry Houdini and Arthur Conan Doyle did happen, but it also seems like it's trying to be like the X-Files. I mean, you guys know the X-Files is about Mulder believing in, the fact that there's aliens or something like that out there, and Scully starting to slowly believe him. It just kind of seems like that's what Houdini and Doyle is going to be. That Doyle is like the Mulder, and Houdini is kind of like the Scully. And for me, it just isn't as new or fresh, and it isn't too good. The case in general, I wasn't that interested in. I think the case really wasn't that exciting. It was just kind of like whatever. They just had a random case in here, and I don't even think they really need. We need a case in here to see what the show was going to be like, but I feel like the case took up way too much of this episode. I mean, a lot of it did have to do with was this actually work of the supernatural, or was it just all, was it actually plausible? Was it something that's going on? I think that's a very interesting situation. Like I said, the conflict that these two have, I think, is very good. There's a lot, you can definitely tell why these two are going to clash over, and that there's going to be a lot of clashing there. But already in the first episode, you can tell that Houdini is starting to see signs that maybe Doyle isn't wrong, that maybe there is supernatural. I like the way the episode ended that way. I thought that was very well done. I definitely really did love that. The thing that they did in the very beginning of the episode was starting in like the middle of the episode. I don't know why they do that. I know so many pilots do that nowadays, and this one just seemed really unnecessary. I honestly don't know why they did that, why they started with that one scene and then went back to the past. I just thought it was really unnecessary. I don't really know why they had to do that, but I did like that we really did flesh out Houdini and Doyle. We saw, of course, Harry Houdini being the magician, and Arthur Conan Doyle doing his job. I definitely thought that worked very well. I definitely really did like that. The cinematography of the show, you really do get that feel that it is in, of course, the 1900s. Definitely gonna get that feel here. I think they did a very good job with that. And then the score as well. I do like the score. It's a bit wacky at times, and I think it does go with the tone of the show, which I really do enjoy. And then as far as the show goes, the editing I think is fine. The show for me just isn't as exciting as I think they want it to be. I think this is a plot that is an interesting story, Houdini and Doyle, and I think they could do some really interesting stuff with it. But unfortunately, because of shows like the X-Files, this show just isn't as interesting as it should be, because I've seen stuff like this before, and I'm hoping that maybe they do more with it. I'm sure they will do more with it, but right now it just kind of seems like it's them going back and forth with this, and I'm sure we'll get more as the show goes on, because there are 10 episodes. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens in those 10 episodes, and I am definitely going to watch this season. I know in London, I believe, ITV, they're actually already on, like, episode 9, so you guys can watch from, like, episode 9. Maybe I might just binge the show. I'm not really sure, but I like where it's going so far. I do think it's in a good direction. I am looking forward to seeing what happens in the rest of the show. Definitely, I think that's going to be very interesting. Like I said, the case in general just didn't really interest me. I think the concept of the show overall, I really do like, and I do like the three working together overall. I think Houdini, Doyle, and Adelaide, they really are, those two, especially the main two, they really are the best thing about the show. They have very good chemistry. They work very well together, and for a show like this, you need that. You need these two to interplay really well, because they're going to be the main focus of the show. But the other thing with the show is that it doesn't really seem like it's focused more on Harry Houdini and Arthur Conan Doyle as people. It feels like it's a lot more focused on this case, and just kind of how it affects them, and kind of how they're dealing with this case. And I kind of want to see more of their personal lives. I mean, these are two very famous figures, and already it seems like we're seeing a lot of Houdini, but not a ton of Doyle. It seems like there's a lot of Houdini's life, but not a lot of Doyle's life, and I want to see more of their lives as the show goes on, which I'm sure we will. I don't know if we will, but I'm sure we will. I mean, I don't think that the show wouldn't do that. I feel like just in a show like this, you kind of have to do that, because, these are two very famous, not characters, but these are two very famous, figures, one being a very famous writer and one being a very famous magician. You kind of need to tell that story, and you can already tell Houdini and Doyle, it is going to be kind of a sad show, because when it's happening with them, I mean, I believe Houdini and Doyle, it doesn't end well. I believe they actually do end up parting ways. I mean, we'll have to see what ends up happening in the show, though. We'll have to see what happens with that. I don't think the show's ever going to really tell us, though, if it really is a ghost or not. I feel like it's going to be one of those shows where it might not give us an answer. We'll see, though, if they do actually give us an answer. I'm definitely going to be interested in seeing what ends up happening with that. this episode, we see that there was a killer. It wasn't a ghost, that there, in fact, was a killer. And it wasn't just a ghost in this episode, which is interesting. But basically, we do see that Houdini says that the writing on the hand on the window was similar to that in the legends where Grace wrote, and Houdini says that she's almost as impressive as he is, and leaves. And basically, Doyle looks over at the glass and notices that there are daisies there. There are 3 daisies there, and then the end of the episode when that piano is playing in this next room, and then it just stops. That really is a very interesting scene. The way that Houdini is kind of like, that's very interesting. He's not thinking much of it, and I think he's very much in his belief that, oh, this is impossible, that this is very much, just it's I need to see it to believe it. But I think as the show goes on, he is going to get more and more like, maybe Doyle isn't wrong here, maybe he is onto something, and I feel like that definitely is going to be how the show is, and that's something I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. Overall, guys, I do like the show overall. I think the actors work very well together. I think they're having fun with it. Definitely you get that fun vibe here. The cases, I hope they make more interesting, because this one just wasn't that interesting. Maybe some of the other ones will be interesting, but this one in general just wasn't that interesting to me. And especially, you guys know I'm not a fan of procedural shows, but this show isn't just a procedural show. It's also telling the story, of Houdini and Doyle, how they were, their interplay, things like that, their different beliefs, and that really interests me. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. I'm looking forward to seeing if the show's successful. I'm hoping the show's successful because I do think it can last for a while. I mean, this is something you can do a lot with, definitely. Like I said, I think the actors work very well together. That one subplot with Adelaide, I'm just not really a fan of. But overall, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. I'm hoping the show is going to be very good. I know it premieres in a few minutes, but I just want to give you guys my thoughts on it to tell you that it is really good. I don't think everyone will love this show. I think there are going to be some people that are like, oh, it's too cheesy or too silly, but I really did enjoy it. I really did enjoy this episode. I thought it was definitely really well done, and I thought it was not very well done. I thought in general, I think it's going to be a really well done show. I'm hoping that the concept works out really well, and I'm hoping the show can make itself something of its own, because right now it seems like it is trying to copy other Fox shows like the X-Files, like other detective shows they have, and it just doesn't seem that new or fresh. Yes, we have obviously Houdini and Doyle and them working together, but right now it just doesn't seem that different and seems a lot more focused on the case than it is on the actual characters. We'll have to see what happens with that. But overall, guys, I'm glad you guys saw this first episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I definitely did enjoy it. It wasn't perfect. I'd probably give it like a B, but I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Bates Motel, which I cannot wait for, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.